Hello everyone, welcome to my channel LearnIT. Today my discussion will be on workflow which is useful for automating the process in ServiceNow. So today I will show you what is workflow and how we can create a workflow. Okay, so today I will be covering these all sessions in current session like workflow, parts of workflow, life cycle, properties, activities, editor bar, how to create a workflow. I will cover today in this session. So let's move further and see what is workflow. Workflow provides a drag and drop interface for automating multi-step process across the platform. Each workflow consists of a sequence of activities such as generating records, notifying users of pending approvals, or running scripts. The graphical workflow editor represents workflows visually as a type of flowchart. It shows activities as boxes labeled with information about the activity and transitions from one activity to the next as lines connecting the boxes. Okay, so let's move further. Parts of a workflow. So workflow generally contains properties, activities, transition, exit condition, context or versions. So in properties, we can define configuration settings such as workflow name, the table whose records the workflow acts on, and the condition under which to run it. Activities. So it will specify the sequence of operations the workflow performs, such as generating records, notifying users of pending approvals, or running scripts. Transitions. So transition depends on the condition under which we run those activities. Exit condition. Specify the condition under which to run a transition. Context. Store historical runtime information about a specific workflow run in a context record. Versions. Store historical design information about a specific workflow in a workflow version record. So let's move further in workflow lifecycle. How workflow lifecycle is starting. Workflow starts when a triggering event occurs. Common triggers include a record being inserted into a specific table or a particular field in a table being set to a specified value. At each step in a workflow, activity is processed and an action defined by that activity occurs. At the completion of an action by an activity, the workflow checks the activity's conditions. For each matching condition, the workflow follows the transition to the next activity. When the workflow runs out of activities, the workflow is complete. Workflow context stores the execution history of the activities and transition run. The workflow version stores the design history of the activities, transitions, and exit conditions available to run. So this is the workflow life cycle, how it works as part of a record or a table where we run this workflow. Okay, so let's move further and see workflow properties and workflow activities. So workflow properties specify when to run a workflow and what record it acts on. For more information about workflow properties, we can look into workflow properties in ServiceNow docs. Okay, so let's move further for workflow activities. A workflow activity contains instructions that are processed by the workflow. An activity can include running scripts, manipulating records, waiting for a set of period of time, or logging an event. Workflow conditions determine whether or not the activity is performed. Activities can be added, removed, or rearranged. Transition can be drawn between the activities. Workflow runs activities as the user session that starts them. Workflow started from record operations will run activities as the user session that perform the record operation. Workflows started from schedules or restarted from timers run activities as the system user. Workflows started from script calls run activities as the user session that started the script. So let's move further and see what are the core workflow activities which is used in flow for automation. So approval and rollback workflow activities, condition workflow activities, notification workflow activity, notify workflow activities, subflow activities, task workflow activities, timer workflow activities, utility workflow activities. So these are the core activities will be used in workflow to perform certain actions as part of that particular record or table automation on certain conditions. Okay, so let's move further and talk about workflow editor. What workflow editor is? So workflow editor is an interface for creating and modifying workflows by arranging and connecting activities to drive process. Okay, you can manage multiple workflows in the same screen, creating custom workflow activities and use existing activities as data sources. Users with the workflow creator role can create workflows. User with workflow admin role can create, modify, delete, and publish workflows. To open the workflow editor, we will navigate to workflow editor. For more information about using the editor, we can see how we can create a workflow. So let's move further and talk about what is workflow palette. Okay. Default workflow palette contains workflow activities and existing workflows that can use as subflows. Basic workflow palette contains these tabs. So generally it includes two tabs, workflows and core. So workflows will display all the existing workflows and the created workflows, any custom workflows which is created. You can have a look under workflow session under palette. Under core activities, we can see the workflow activities which is available to all system and orchestration activities when orchestration is activated. So these are the palette which is very useful to see our workflow and add core activities as part of our workflow. So let's move further and see workflow editor title bar. So upper side of workflow there is a workflow editor title bar. When a workflow is opened in the canvas, the title bar displays the workflow name and the workflow status in italics, whether it is checked out by someone or it is already published. Okay, controls on right side of the title bar to manage the workflow properties will open current flow properties where we can see what are the conditions added as part of that workflow and on what table it is running. So start section is there where we are running the workflow. This control is only available when workflows running on the global table that are accessible from all application scopes. Validate. This will test the workflow prior to publication. Validation detects potential problems that can prevent the workflow from publishing or cause the workflow to fail. Help icon will show the documentation for this particular workflow, how to create a workflow to their ServiceNow docs. Okay, so let's move further and see how we can create a workflow inside the ServiceNow system, and I will show you how we can attach a workflow to the catalog item and to a particular table. Okay, so let's move to ServiceNow and see how we can do these activities. So let's move further. This is my ServiceNow personal developer instance. So I will show you how we can create workflow. So let's redirect to workflow. You can see there is a workflow editor here. Under workflow there is a workflow editor. So let me click on this workflow editor and it will be opening in our new tab. Workflow editor will be opening here. So you can see these are our existing workflows that are present in our system already. So you can see there is publish, checkout, help button here. So published means like all the workflows are published will be displaying under publish section. Under checkout section, workflow will be visible those who are in checked out position. Okay, so we can see this is the workflow editor title bar where we select any workflow and you will see this workflow title bar. Suppose I have clicked on change request normal. So you can see this is a workflow editor title bar where we can see the options, what all options this workflow is having. Suppose new workflow, open existing, copy workflow, checkout, delete, set inactive, expand transitions, validate workflow, show context, properties, workflow canvas, help. So these are options available well in workflow editor title bar. So this is the workflow properties button. We can click here and see the properties of this workflow. Okay, you can see the properties of this workflow. This workflow is written for change request and some conditions are added. Type is normal, model is empty, right? So let's move further. So this is workflow run button. When this enables us, like when the workflow is running on global. So right now this workflow is not running on globals. That's why this button is disabled. And this is the validate button. We can validate this particular workflow whether all the activities are mapped correctly. So this will show the validation whether the workflow is correct or not. Here you can see all the things is passed, just they have provided info, they didn't provide any warning or critical. Okay, so these are all about workflow editor title bar. So this is our workflow palette where we can see workflows and core tab are visible under workflows, right? So under workflow we will find all the workflow which is present in the system. Okay, so these are list of workflows which is present in the system. Okay, and under core we can find the activities which will be used in workflow to perform certain validations or any automations, like we can generate approvals, we can create a change approval policy, we can create a conditions, if condition, wait for conditions, which conditions. Under notification we can create a notification using event, or we can directly create a notification under this workflow. On call activity is there. Okay, service catalog activity is there. We can create a script table order guide here. Subflows are there. We can launch multiple flow as part of a single flow. Task, we can create a task, like we can create any task from this workflow wherever we want it to be created. And timers, we can perform timer activity as part of SLA, how much SLA is completed. Under utilities we can see set value, return value, run script, log message. We can create all these functions under particular activities wherever it is required. Join activity is there, branch activity is there. Okay, so these are very helpful in creating our workflows. Okay, so let's move and create catalog item workflow first. Okay, I will show you. In previous session I have shown you how to create a catalog item. So I will be using a same catalog item to run our workflow. So let's start and create our workflow. So under home of this workflow editor we can click on new workflow. As you can see, I have clicked on new workflow. Now I will be defining our name of this particular flow. So I will name it as catalog item flow for our item. Okay, so I will select table name. So let me select table name here. sc request underscore item. Okay, so I have selected requested item here. Okay, and we can define conditions also, but I am selecting a catalog item. On catalog item you will not get conditions to select because this workflow will be called inside catalog item itself. Okay, so stage order is computed, stage rendering is workflow driven. Okay, so let me try to submit it. As you can see, there are two out of the box activities which is already created, like begin and end. Okay, so now let us try to create some approvals or some more activities. I will show you. So let me add a approval first. Okay, so I will send this approval to line manager. So suppose I will select this activity name as line manager approval. Okay, and stage we can set stage here. We can select stage is like waiting for approval. Okay, so condition is fine. It will when catalog item will be raised, at that point of time itself the approval will go. I will add myself for now. You can select user groups for approvals. Okay, and we can define our custom approvals as well. Suppose we want to push any particular user, so we can define our sysid under answer.push, and we can write activities also, and we can check like wait for anyone to approve, everyone to approve, first response from anyone, condition based on script. So by default anyone to approve will be selected for all the approvals. Okay, so here it is asking like when anyone rejects what to do with approval. So we are generally rejecting the approval column, approval journal column. Okay, so let me submit it. Suppose I will add this approval activity after begin. So let me just delete this, and I will click from always to first, it will go a approval. Okay, and now what I will do as part of approval, now I will create a catalog task after my approval. So I will go under task, and I will create a catalog task for this particular item. Okay, let me give a name, create a task. So here we can define our fields, template values. We can define where this catalog task will get relocated. Suppose I will add short description as testing server. Okay, and we can assign this task to particular group also. Let me select a group here. So suppose I will select existing group application development. Okay, and here we can see if we can involve our variables on task. Okay, so right now I am ignoring it for now. Okay, and we can write a script as well for this particular catalog task. Now I will click on submit, and then under catalog task let me add a stage for fulfillment. Okay, let me update this activity and mark it as end. So one more thing you have to keep in your mind is like this checkbox, wait for completion. This should be always be checked, because what happens is like this activity will be completed first, then it should move further. Okay, otherwise what will happen is if you make it as unchecked, it will just create a task and workflow will end. So that is not a good practice. Okay, so let it be checked all the time. Okay, so now I am setting this workflow as end. Now I will show what rejection will do. So we can set a value to our catalog task or request item to mark it as incomplete because it is rejected. Okay, now I will see what stage can be applied to this. So we can see there is an option request cancelled because this is not approved, so we can select it as request cancelled, and we can set the state. We can select stage as closed incomplete. Okay, let me submit it. And now what I will do is like I will make a connection to this set value, and this set value will mark our workflow complete. Okay, so you can rearrange those activities also so that it will look better, so you can do it yourself. Okay, so let me publish it. Until this workflow is published, you cannot create request out of this. Okay, and you can click on validate button and we can check whether the workflow is correct or not. So you can see the workflow is correct, and I will show you when this will be showing error. So let me delete this connection and I will click on validate again. So you will find some warnings. You can see there are two warnings created. This workflow contains one activity conditions without a input transitions. Similar way, here the workflow contains one activity condition without an output transition. Okay, so we can see here output transition is missing and here input transition is missing. Okay, so two warning messages displayed. So let me make it again and we can validate it again whether the workflow is correct or not. Okay, now our workflow is perfectly fine. So let me publish it. As you can see, this catalog item is published, and now I will attach this workflow under our catalog item. So let's move to our catalog item which we have created on previous session. So this is our demo server catalog item which we have created on previous session of my catalog items. So you can see in process engine some default execution plan is already added. So I will remove this and I will add our catalog item flow. Okay, so I will add our workflow here. Okay, now I will save it and try to raise this catalog item whether this workflow is running fine or not. I will show you. So let me try it. I will click on order now and we will see the approval will be triggered for this particular RITM. You can see the approval is triggered to system administrator. This is only I have defined under my workflow to go approval to me myself. So you can see as soon as the approval is there, no catalog task is generated. As soon as I will do approval for this catalog item, then task will be generated. So let me try to approve it. Okay, now you can see the requested item is approved, and we can see after approving this catalog item the catalog task is generated. You can see assignment group is application development, short description is testing server. So we can see our workflow also how it executed. We can click on show workflow link. I have clicked on show workflow link and we can see the workflow contest is already open here, and we can see our workflow is started, then approval is done, and I have clicked on approve buttons, so that's why it is marked it as approved and the task is created. Okay, so until the catalog task is completed it will be remaining running. Okay, I will show you how this workflow will be closed. So suppose this is my catalog task which I have created. Let me click on close task. Okay, now you can see the task is closed and you will see this workflow. I will reload this workflow and this workflow is completed. Okay, so this is all about workflow in catalog items. Now I will create a workflow on particular table. Suppose I will take an example of incident. So let me try to create another workflow for incident table. Okay, so let's click on new workflow and we will type it as set incident description. Okay, so we want to set some incident description as per our conditions. So let me select my incident table here. Okay, I have selected incident table here. Now I can define some conditions. We can write a condition matches, run the workflow always, and we can make active true and state is new. So suppose this is my condition which I have added for tables. So previously when I have selected requested item, we didn't get this condition field because in catalog item we have to go inside the catalog item and attach our workflow. But here on independent table, we can see that this workflow will direct get triggered under incident. We don't want to attach it with incident table. Okay, I will show you how this workflow will work. So let me submit it and we will see some out of the box begin and end activities will be there already. So let me delete it and let us add some set value function, set value activities here. Okay, now I will write as set description as my incident. So I will add description as my incident. Okay, now I will set this description field and I will show you how this workflow will be executed on incident table. So let me add this flow and make it as published. So we don't want to do anything after publishing. We just want to go to incident table and check whether this workflow is running or not. So let me try to create new incident. So let me try to create this. As you can see, our workflow is triggered and description is set to my incident. Okay, so our workflow is triggered for this incident, right? So this is very interesting thing to automate our process in ServiceNow. So this is all about workflow. I have shown you how to create a workflow for catalog items and as well as tables. For more information, please get into my video description. Please provide your comment if you have any questions, doubts or queries related to this session. Thanks for hearing me out. Stay tuned for more videos. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel LearnIT.